and I'm back again. Better than ever, you better factor in that I ain't quit yet, just a little better within. With my paper and pen in the mind of a soldier. Unsigned, but I'm taking over. Fuck mainstream, I don't bend over. I don't need the help of a suit and tie. I can do it on my own, there's a proof with time, and I can be that.
When did I start writing music? I want to say it was back in 2004. So I started kind of freestyle rapping on the back of the bus during summer baseball. So I played baseball growing up, and so played for this team called the Missoula Mavericks, and that was American Legion Baseball. And on the bus rides to all the games and whatnot, I started freestyle rapping just as, just to have fun. And I really liked it, and I got decently good at it. So about 2004, I started putting thoughts down on paper and formulating, songs and stuff like that. And first song I ever recorded, that was a song called Word Up. Yeah, Word Up. I don't know how else to tell you, but that was the name of it. I don't know, I saved up a bunch of money, and there was this recording studio in the town I was in, and I went in there. His name was Rick. I don't know how I just remembered his name, but I did. So great. Rick, how are you doing? Thanks. Anyways, I went in there and we recorded this song. It was called Word Up. I was with my friend Phil, and he's actually on the song with me, and it was good times. But I only went to one real recording studio, right? Because that $250 or $200, however much I spent, it was a lot of money back then. So I was like, damn, there's gotta be a way I can just do this myself. So I went and I bought a little inbox. It's called so Pro Tools made this thing called the inbox. I think I had the inbox 2 or something like that. And just started recording. Back in the day when it was still, MySpace and hand flyers and stuff like that. I started recording with my buddy Javon. He's a hip hop artist that goes by Illustuminati now. But back then his name was Young Jay. And so Young Jay and I, we kind of teamed up and started recording some music together. And we then met up with, later we ended up meeting up with a guy that's a really close friend of mine now too. His name's Frody. And Frody had this recording studio in his basement, and it was called Wapakia Records. In fact, I got the tattoo on my forearm. If you ever see my forearm, that's what that says. It says Wapakia, and on this side says Records. So there's like a bunch of us that have that same tattoo. So anyway, so it's called Wapakia Records, and we started recording there. But we recorded a CD, and we had it, professionally manufactured, I guess. I mean, the artwork was pretty beginner stuff. But again, my boy Young Jay, who's now Illustuminati, he's gotten a lot better. He got a degree in digital art and all that stuff. So now anyway, back then he did the art. I think he did it in like Paint or something like that. Microsoft Paint. Anyway, so we got these CDs and we'd go out there and we'd just sell them. $10 a pop. We'd go to the fair, we'd go to the mall and pop the trunk, real old school, like hustling CDs and things like that. And I remember we did our first, it's somewhere on the internet, I gotta find it. But we did an album release party. Anyways, there's this line around the block. Like we had this video of this line around the block. It was incredible. I mean, we were like, oh my God, this is so sweet. There was like 120 people or something like that. But it was really sweet. So that was kind of when the buzz started going locally, and then we just kind of progressed from there. Man, just the early days of touring and the early days of concerts. I remember my first concert I ever did, I paid to get on stage. So I opened up for Afro Man, and it was at this venue called The Other Side, which, now that I'm remembering, is the name of the venue I was at for our very first concert for our album release party. But the actual first concert I ever performed, I paid to get on, my boy Young Jay and I, and it was Afro Man. It was a good time, man. That show was lit. I remember I was so nervous. I was behind stage just hyperventilating because I couldn't breathe right, and I was just so nervous, you know what I mean? And back then, of course, we used to rap over our vocals. That was kind of how we started. And so luckily we had the track kind of playing in the background. So, if you forgot your words or something like that, you could just kind of listen and hear. We didn't forget our words. We were pretty good performers, but yeah, that was the first concert. But then later on I met up with, actually pre that, one day I just wanted to tour. I was like, man, I'm sick of the same old local. Nothing wrong with local or anything, but man, if you're gonna make it, you got to get out. So I remember one day I just sat down and I wrote a list of towns that I wanted to go play, and I just found them on MySpace or Facebook. I forget which one I was using at that point. Probably Facebook. But I would just look up whoever was running the place, and I'd hit them up and say, hey, I want to come to a concert there, and blah blah blah. I want to charge $5 at the door. And so they'd let me come in and basically charge a cover charge. We weren't even selling tickets yet, but people pay their little $5 and come in and see us, and there's be like 40 people or something like that. But we'd be in a like Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, or Whitefish, Montana, or somewhere way far from my town, and that was like really sweet, man. It was cool back then. And then fast forward a little bit, I linked up with an artist named Wildcard. Now, Wildcard kind of taught me what it took, right? So I started meeting up with him, and he kind of, he mentored me, really. He taught me how to book national tours. So he had the name, but he didn't like reaching out and booking tours. And I had this reputation for being able to book tours because I did it, kind of regionally or whatever. So Wildcard had kind of a buzz, kind of all over the place. So we'd reach out to, other rappers in other cities and promoters that we knew about or whatever, and we'd convince them to bring us out and, pay us like $400 or something like that, to maybe $500. And we'd split that at the end of the night. So I'd open up for him every night. So that's kind of where I got my chops with the rap stuff. So Wildcard is he's a real spitter. He's a rapper. And so I'm in front of these crowds, that kind of took us, I did New York, all over the East Coast, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, all over, right? Then we met up with one of my good buddies, Adlib. Right, so Adlib, he's actually with a group called Space Camp now, but Adlib is a legend, man. He toured all over the world. I mean, I don't know, tons of different countries, things of that nature. Like, he's just kind of a legend. But we linked up with him and started putting the tours together. And so they went from regional tours into national tours, technically, because we were covering, from New York all the way to California and everywhere in between, right? Getting out there, I think the longest tour we did was like 40 concerts or something like that, just on the grind, man. We're talking about backpack shows. We're talking about like the real rap circuit stuff. And yeah, man, those were the early days. That was how I kind of got my start. I remember after the last tour I did with Wildcard, we went into this place called Bagels and Broadway in Missoula. Love their food. So we had just got done with the tour, got back to Missoula, and the next morning he was going to take off. So we went and grabbed some breakfast. Anyways, he sat me down, and I remember he said, kind of done pretty much all we can do, man. Ball's in your court now. And I remember I was like, so he's telling me that it's time for me to leave the nest and fly. I was like kind of nervous. I was like, okay. You know what I mean? Because it was his name that we were booking under all the time. I mean, mine too, but he had the bigger name, so it was just easier to get bookings and stuff. And it just kind of put me in a place of survival mode. What were the early studios like, and kind of where it's come from? Well, my first ever recording studio was in the studio apartment on Charlotte Avenue in Missoula, Montana. It was horrible. I mean, we smoked cigarettes in there. It was super gutter. But kind of, it had these closet doors that separated and created the bedroom. So it was a studio apartment, meaning, if you don't know what that means, whatever. But anyways, I had these closet doors that would kind of shut off the bedroom. And so we'd shut these closet doors, and inside that area, you kind of had this walk-in closet. We're talking old, man, like 1960s, like old stuff. Anyway, super gutter. And we went to the Walmart, and we got some of that mattress pad, right, that you use for camping, and we just stapled it up on the walls. And I believe I had it was an AT2020 microphone. I forget which brand that is, but it doesn't matter. Anyways, it was my first microphone. Started recording on that, and man, we thought we were coming out with some hot mixes, right? We thought this stuff sounded, next level, and we were just so excited. And then I remember I moved from that to this old 1960s trailer, man. I'll describe it. There was a hole in the floor in the bathroom. So you know what I mean? I woke up one morning to go to work, and I took a step into the bathroom, went right through the damn floor, and it was the middle of the winter, which in Montana the winter is cold as hell, and that was just miserable, man. We're talking wood panel, the old wood panel on the walls and stuff like that. So we there was this back room there, and we put all this studio or this mattress pad all over the room. And kind of in the corner there was a closet that we took the doors off, and we just kind of set up the microphone in the corner there. And man, I wrote some awesome songs in there. And, a lot of memories I had. A lot of people came and recorded there. So I could kind of engineer music pretty good by that time. So a lot of artists would come through and record. And those were the early days, man. That was crazy. I felt restricted, but I didn't feel restricted on the possibilities that could come out of that room, man. It was just so raw, though. And listening back, some of the songs in my catalog were recorded in there. It's crazy. Hunger in My Stomach, biggest song ever. I believe we did that in there. What else? What else was in there? In and Out of the Game. I teamed up with a guy named Black Santa. James is his name, really great guy. He changed his producer name to Jimmy Burner. So if you ever look at production credits on my Today stuff, that's who that is. But I teamed up with him, man, and we did this song called In and Out of the Game. That was my first official music video. It was sweet, man. It was crazy. But yeah, that's kind of how it came. And so I had a house on a street called Jamie Court, and I was a part of this movement. I still am. It's called Alumni, and we had a bunch of local Missoula rappers and whatnot. We were kind of like a club, pretty much. We had board meetings, and we worked as a unit. But anyways, a bunch of young artists came through. That's how I met my little bro Christian Twite, who rest in peace. Anyways, that's how I met him, and Young Tigga, and Levi Miller, and Isra, and Timmy Montana. I bought a house in Missoula in 2018, and again, well, actually before that, I bought a small, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house. It was no bigger than a townhouse though. And in the garage, we built this wall in the middle of the garage, separate it into two, and we converted that into a recording studio. And that was my first real sounding recording studio. Custom booth, all that stuff. We had it was crazy. It was 12-foot ceilings. It was nuts. Not ideal acoustically whatsoever, but it worked. And then I bought another house in 2018, and there was no real spot for the recording studio, so just took this downstairs bedroom. It was probably 12-foot by 12-foot bedroom, and my buddy Jimmy came over, and we built this custom recording booth and just set it up in the corner there. It had a door on it and everything. It was cool. And from there, sold that house, came to Billings, and built this studio. And this, so technically, my first ever song was on a real recording studio. But every song up until this point has just been basically converted bedrooms. So now this is what it's at. So the conversion from going from kind of a local musician to more focusing on the branding on a national scale was interesting, man. So, I was in part of the local rap scene, just everybody that comes up. And, I just wanted to be, my music at that time, I was still searching. I was still finding myself. I was young, early 20s, not really grounded, hadn't really figured out who I was yet. And, I started making really more street type rap music, kind of more hip hop, I guess. And then, as I kind of got older, around when I turned 30, 28, 29, 30, somewhere in there, I don't know, I guess matured. I grew up, and I still had a passion for music, and I could still create it, and I could still write bars and rap and, all that stuff. But the truth is, I grew up in Montana, man, and that's technically the country, but not the kind of country that you see down south. See, it's hunting, it's fishing, it's, cattle ranches, it's, horseback riding, it's, all those things. That's kind of where I came from, and with that comes country music. And I kind of grew up on, my old man on the radio, that all that was ever on was country music. Same with my mom. So anytime I'd be riding with them, that's all I listened to. So as a result, that was, my first love of music. And I figured out once I started working on like Hunger in My Stomach, I kind of figured out that I like the sound of fusing together rock and country and hip hop all kind of in one, and it just kind of really helped me identify who I was at a time when I was so lost and just going through the motions and trying to progress through life. It really helped zero me in on who I was and brought me back to my roots, who I was, and I've always kind of been an outlaw, done my own thing, never really taken permission. I just kind of did things and worked hard at what I did. And growing up, all I knew was hard work. My old man worked at the mine. My mom worked for the railroad. My older brother, who's 10 years older than me, was a big influence too. And he's just highly regarded. And when people talk about my brother, they talk about how hard of a worker he is and how honorable he is. And same with my dad. So I guess I just I wanted to get back to who I was. And that was kind of inserting some country tones in with what I was doing, and it kind of created the sound that you hear from Overtime today. And I've mixed in. I have a full band now called the Blue Collar Soldiers. Shout out to Andrew and George and Damien. And just kind of when we're live now, it's a live band. It's a show. There's lights. There's fog. There's it kind of evolved into something that is pretty incredible, in fact. So where are things going to go now? Well, first of all, I just want to continue to be an example that, if you work hard, have an idea and do what you have to do to put that idea together and don't give up on yourself. Number one, there's going to be people along the way that, they're going to try and bring you down. Now, that's a society issue, and I don't know why people do that. People say haters are jealous. It just is what it is, but you gotta just push through and you can get to where you want. I mean, I'm proof of that. I came from, as a young adult, didn't have anything. And now I got the world, a beautiful family, beautiful recording studio. I'm able to hire my guys and give them jobs and pay their bills with all this stuff. And that's kind of what it's become. So, you can do, anything you want. Just surround yourself by good people. That's number one, because you are who you surround yourself with. But we're just going up from here. Everything's going to get bigger. The videos are going to get bigger. Shout out to my boy, Mikey Graef, who's done, basically most of the video content for everything I've ever done. And, every time I see him, he shows up with more equipment, with more knowledge, with more, moxie, I guess. We'll say Mikey has moxie. But yeah, he brings my ideas to life. Oftentimes he's the one with the ideas. So things are gonna get bigger. The videos are gonna get bigger. The shows are gonna get bigger. The bus is gonna get bigger. Everything's gonna get bigger because we don't give up around here. I was raised to see it through. And that's what I'm going to do. And I want to show you guys, and I got to thank you guys because you're on the journey with me. Thanks for tuning in.
You've seen a lot, maybe not seen it all, but I've seen enough to make a judgment call if I quit now. What did I ever become? I've been down, trying to make a little come up. I'm a new kid, trying to make a name for myself in a way that I know that I grew myself. From the bottom of the rocks I came up, out from a blackout. You can't keep me down, I'm a